Father, we do thank you for the year that has been. We thank you for the way that you have provided for us so richly in so many ways. I thank you most of all for the parishioners who make up this family of yours that gathers in this place. And as we reflect on the year that has been, and as we look to the coming year and the elections and so on, I pray that you, Lord, may have raised up the right leaders in taking us forward, and that you will guide us into that future that you have for us. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. So we have the reception of the parish electoral roll. It is on the table here. Now the attendance register is still going around. So who has not put their name so far? So just the front row here. So it will be here very shortly. We need a quorum of 10, which, looking around, we've got that quorum, which is just as well. Phew. We do have a number of apologies. So we have Greg Baxter has got COVID, Maisie has COVID, Sue is an apology, Virginia is an apology, Charlene and Rowena, Kevin and Janice, Lily. Alistair's in Indonesia, so he can't quite tune in from there yet. Okay, so there are our apologies. Okay. Appointment of for officers of the meeting, we need a secretary. The nomination is Mima. I don't think, there's no one's going to fight for that role. No. Good. Now the previous minutes, they always approved by the first meeting of the new parish council, and we have our meeting, all our minutes are in a folder that is available in the narthex, and you can actually look at it any time at all. So they will appear again thereafter they've been received at the first meeting of the new parish council, and you can check them there and check the minutes of any meeting that we have. So they are, as I said, we're very transparent. We do have things available for you to check, and that is as it should be. Right, my report. You can read what was sent out. So did anyone not get the email with the report? Okay, great. We do have a few copies here. Okay, here we go. So as I said, one of the things that we can be thankful for is that we've gone for a year now without being shut down for COVID. Isn't that great? So we do give thanks to God for that. We've been continuing to move forward with our strategic plan and have achieved a number of things. I'm going to focus on what we were focusing on last year. And of course, as we were heard in the sermon, we were reminded that our mission is growing as the people of God and making him known. So hopefully if someone comes in and says, "What's your mission?" you'll be able to answer. I know when I've done some parish consultations and asked them, "What's your mission?" So it's helpful to know what we're about. And our vision for the next couple of years now is, went through that as well. So we want to be dynamic, growing, active, and attracting people here, deepening our own faith and commitment, but also bringing others in. We're going to have a look at where we're at. In that, one of the ways that we have been doing that is to have 50%. This is a goal from our strategic plan that we focused on last year. The goal to have 50% of our congregation participating in small groups by the end of 2024. And we've achieved some of that in the last 12 months. So we have grown our regular Bible study group in the last 12 months. So that's an encouragement, because if we're growing as a people of God, we've got to start with us. So that's encouraging. We also had the initiative to run 3 or 4 short courses per annum. We ran 4 in the past year. So we had the Lent studies, the Anglican Doctrine and Distinctives course for those being received into the Anglican Church, but also for others who are interested in it. How to read the Bible and how to lead intercessions. So, and we also ran Alpha, as we normally do. Looking to next year, I will be looking at how to lead worship and so we'll be doing a short course on that, and also about how to share your faith. There are two that I'm planning on doing. We always do the Lent studies and also run Alpha. We also participated in the National Church Life Survey and also our own internal survey. Even though it has 2021 National Church Life Survey, it was meant to have been done around October in 2021, but we were in lockdown still in October. We're just coming out of it. So a lot of churches did it in 2022, which we did. We did it at the beginning of the year, as well as our own review of services. The National Church Life Survey has been going for 30 years. So it's the longest continual study of church life anywhere in the world. Following all the trends, it looks at the quantitative measures, the numbers, as well as the qualitative measures, because it takes both to grow the church. They also, apart from the National Church Life Survey, they also are always doing research into how the Australian people are responding to the church, and how willing would they be to go to a church service, or what are their attitudes towards faith and so on. So they're constantly doing research and churning out, and I do make reference to different things that as they come out in sermons or comments that I make, keeping us up to date with where things are at in our nation, and how Australians are responding to the church. So we're going to have a look at, first of all, in quantitative things. Of course, the way to grow the church is to bring new people in, newcomers in. So it's been fairly steady for quite a number of years between, here's got 2001 to 2016, so the 9 to 8% newcomers coming into the church. I'm comparing us to Protestant churches. The Catholic results are being done separately because it's a different approach to things. So we're part of the Protestant grouping. So they do group and compare the churches. So that includes Anglican, Uniting, Presbyterian, Baptist, Pentecostal, Salvation Army, and then there's some smaller other ones as well. Now, because of COVID, they believe it's COVID, there's been a drop-off in newcomers coming into Protestant churches. But look where we are. We actually maintained that. So that's actually good news for us. So there's the quantitative, yes. So in bringing newcomers in, we want to attract new attendees, what we're using through our small groups to encourage every parishioner to pray for and invite one person to attend the Alpha course or some other outreach event or short course each year. Now, I know also that the Thursday Bible Study ran a course that people could come in who were not Christians and could come and explore the faith there as well. So, there's been that, having those couple of different opportunities. Holding social events that parishioners can invite friends to. So the games nights had that aim to do that. The men's and women's gatherings, we have people who are not regular church attenders who will attend those. So keeping connections with those and, hopefully drawing them, just keeping the relationship, because it's through the relationship that people will come into the church, and keep praying for those that we do have connections with through them. I've got the Christmas gingerbread house is an opportunity for others to come, and there was the wreath one last year that we did, So there are opportunities that we have there to at least build those connections and relationships with people who are not churchgoers, and just as people get to know them, they're more likely, if they have a good time there, get to know a few other people, more likely to come. Now to the qualitative aspects of church health. So a healthy church is both bringing new people in, but it also has the right culture to keep people and grow people. And through all the years of research, these are the qualities. There's 9 core qualities: internal, outward, and inspiration come under those headings for ensuring that people come to the church and stay in the church. And I'm going to just be going through some of our results for those. So starting with the internal ones, first of all, faith. So this is us growing in our own faith to start with. Now, the first one is growing in faith, how people feel they're growing in their faith through the church. So here we go. Experienced much growth in faith in the previous 12 months. St Thomas, 42% compared with all other Australian Protestant churches at 25%. So that's pretty encouraging that people are growing in and through our services. When it comes to our personal time at home and growth, not quite as good news. We spend time in prayer and Bible reading every day on most days. 46% here, 75% in other. Yes, yeah. Well, in other words, people are growing in church, like churches where they come to grow, but we're not necessarily spending time at home growing. Okay, so that's what it's saying. We are growing in our faith through church, but we're not. So yeah, it's usually a combination of both, because church can only do so much. But in church, we come to worship and experience inspiration during worship services. We're double. Isn't it? So that's encouraging. What we're doing here, obviously, is having an impact on people's lives, and found the preaching to be helpful to lives. I'm very encouraged by that. So we're kicking good goals in those areas. So we must be doing something right. There's something right going on in our church services, and that things are going well. Also, sense of belonging. Look at that. So in that we've been building community, and that's even. It's gone down for other Protestant churches, that sense of belonging, because of COVID. And so somehow we've been able to hold together and have that sense of belonging. Now, I will say that that's the people who were here and completed the survey. So there were some people not here. So they're the ones that, and that's going to show up in another statistic. But as we're looking at the internal core qualities, there's some good news about how we are growing in our faith. And as we grow in our faith, we can tick off the first part of our mission, our statement that, yep, okay, we're doing that, but there's room for improvement in making known. Yeah. But that's because there are some, as you can see, the other churches don't have that sense of belonging. So it really does make it, that's why people would stay when they come, if you can make that sense connection. Okay, so now the outward core qualities. So here we have for inclusion. My eyesight, I know it is fairly small there. So inclusion, always or mostly personally seek to make new arrivals welcome. So look, yeah, we're doing okay on that. There's room where we could do even better than that. So, so we're holding the average. So again, that effort to go and make new people feel welcome, talk to them, encourage them to stay for morning tea, those sort of things. Likely to follow up someone drifting away from church involvement. Okay, so sometimes there can be the attitude that it's the vicar's job to chase people up if you don't see them. Do you know the problem is that when the vicar does that, people feel guilty and they're defensive, and they actually respond quite bad. Oh, yeah, sorry, I haven't been there. And they want to end the conversation as quickly as possible. Get the excuses out, end the conversation. Someone else rings them up. Oh, it's lovely to hear from you. Oh, thanks so much. It's so nice that that you care, that you think, you see the different. That's the difference it makes. Now, when a church has small groups as part of its core ministry, the small groups are the ones who are really good at doing that, because people know each other much better in their small groups. And so if someone in their group isn't coming along, they will be following them up, saying, how are you going? Are you okay? So that's, I know in other parishes that I've been in, that's where, in developing the small groups, it's easier to support and follow up and care for people. So that's something to think about, and how might we be looking out for those that we haven't seen or don't see, and just checking up how they're going.
That was hard during lockdown, though.
It's hard during lockdown?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Listening online.
Yeah, I guess that's why we had people who were trying to, we'd actually allocated a name to others. Every single person in the parish, their name was given to someone to contact. So that was then up to that now. Yeah. 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 Okay, so the next one about faith sharing, which we were talking about in the sermon. Phil at ease talking about faith, 15% compared to 20%. So yeah, most people find it challenging. It isn't easy to do, and that's why I'm looking at running a course about how can we share our faith, talk about faith. Sometimes we get scared because we think we've got to have all the answers and do it all. Be prepared. It's just living as a Christian and just talking about what you do on a Sunday and taking advantage of opportunities that come up. But yeah. 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 Yeah, and look, I do that. I get, people will react. If people see this as on the tram, and that's really interesting. There's, some people will come and talk to you, and other people you can see look very suspiciously at you, or even if you sit face to face, they might get up and move. That's it. I've even had someone. I was wearing a cross as well as this. I went to the doctors, and a woman came home and said, "Can I just hold your cross?" Okay, and then we're able to talk. So you never know what opportunities that there can be. I suppose I get more opportunities because it's more obvious for me, but I get people knocking back. But as I said, even Billy Graham didn't want to. The invitation. He said no. He didn't want to go to anything. It was only because that other person wasn't put off by that and said, okay, well if you don't want to come in, that's okay. I know you love driving your truck. Would you mind giving a group of people a lift in the back of your truck? Yeah, as long as I don't have to go in. Yeah, so not being put off by rejection, because you just never know where it's going to go or what may happen down the track. Rejected 1 year, 2 years, third year. Oh, okay. Look, yeah, you're not the only person who said something. So yeah. Invited friends and relatives to a church service in the last year. I've got those figures. They're from 2016 to 2022. So we actually went up from 31% to 38%, which is a great thing. Slightly more people inviting people to church, whereas other churches went backwards because of COVID. They say that people have been less likely to invite people to church. So, but that's a good trend to be going up on that. Reach out to the wider community through activities in this local church. We're fairly average with that. You've got your core group. Here we are. We're the ones that make sure that we're running things and doing things and so on. So that would be would fit. Inspirational core qualities. This is looking mostly at leadership. So vision. Aware of the vision of this church. In 2016, it was 74%. 2021, 94%. Excellent. So that's been an increase. Now, they did not give one for the Australian church for that, so we can't compare that. But again, saying, having a vision, being aware of the vision, also aware of and strongly committed to the vision and goals or direction for the church. Well, we're pretty on par there, 44. This one, fully confident that this local church can achieve the vision, goals or directions. We're not that confident we can do it. And if there's a lack of confidence, it's more likely I'll sit back and see what happens, rather than if you're going, yeah, I want to make sure we can do this. Yeah, let's get out there, let's do it. So yeah, that. Yeah. It's good. And I've also made these. I've done copies of these too, so people can take them and look at them too, and reflect on. Oh, it was just letting people know who aren't here, letting them know that we are achieving so far, we've been achieving some of our goals and strategies, so that that confidence that we can achieve. I mean, we always said, when you set a strategic plan, you set visions, and the idea is you're not going to necessarily achieve every single one of them, but at least get you heading in that direction. And the ones that we achieve, we go yes, and we then build on others. Because we need to have something to stretch us as well, not just something that we can just tick, we can just sit back and it will just happen, so we don't have to do anything. And here we go, this vision is initiative. So agree this church is always ready to try something new. Okay, so if you think of Protestant churches, certainly like the Pentecostal church, they will do all sorts of things new all the time. We're a more traditional, we're part of the more traditional established Protestant churches. So there are some constraints within that, but also there are some good things about it, that's saying that, well, at least more than half are willing to give something a go. And we've had to change things through COVID and that. We may not be as radical as others, but then the church culture is also shapes that. The thing that put me off with that question is always ready to try something new. I think sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not appropriate. I'm not going to do a funeral differently to how I would always do it, because it wouldn't be appropriate. So picking what's appropriate and given the type of church that we are with that. And there are some, I guess because if people like the tradition, then they're more likely to not really want too much change. So we work with that in a way that can encourage growth and participation. And so looking at the leadership culture, attenders perform leadership or ministry role. So we're fairly close to that. So, and leaders inspire me to action. Again, we're not too far off, but there could be that inspiring people to action. And that's looking at all those leaders, the 49% of the parish who are in some sort of leadership role, that we all have that responsibility of encouraging and inspiring others to action. But I guess all the people here are the ones being inspired to action and are inspiring others to action. That's the show. The people who aren't inspired are probably the ones who are not here. Okay, so that's from the National Church Life Survey. We now come to the review of our services here. Now, I've got the 10 o'clock figures. The 8 o'clock, there are only 6 people who responded to the 8 o'clock. So it's not statistically significant, but it also is different to the 10 o'clock. So I'll deal with that, work with the 8 o'clock with what their responses were. But this, I thought, now, clearly the current times of our services and length of our services is totally supported there, with 83 and 96% respectively. So they will be staying as they are. Communion. Okay, we've had to change communion because of COVID. And so looking at how we go forward, what also do people want. One of the questions is frequency. Some churches have it weekly, some have it fortnightly, some have it monthly. So they were the sort of the options that were put up. We overwhelmingly have said weekly, with just a few that are monthly. Interesting, no one picked fortnightly. So, so I think at this stage, we would stick to the weekly. I don't think there's a strong push to have it any less frequently than that. How do we distribute communion? So yes, we've got the COVID method is just under 50%, so that's what we did today. Then we have the orange is the kneeling up at the rail, or the grey standing at the rail. So we're almost just a little bit less than half to leave it at this part, and a little bit more than half going up to the rail, but doing it in different ways. One of the things we'll need to think about that we're going to discuss in the general business is actually, just thinking about what do we do going forward from here. Also, the diocese is encouraging us to think about accessibility and inclusion. And so there was a survey recently, and I did send that link out to parishioners. I don't know how many people actually went and did that. So thinking about how we distribute communion. If we're going to be thinking about accessibility and inclusion, how hard is it going to be for some people to go up the step all the way up there? It's very hard for some. Yeah, and so, and if some people have walkers, wheelchairs, or people with bad knees, finding it hard to walk up. Sorry? A bad ankle, yes. So there's something to think about, and I think, you know, if I'd raised this question before COVID, I don't think we'd ever consider doing anything but at the rail. I think since we've done it differently, and just as we see, you know, with people like Maisie coming up and so on, just thinking Maisie wouldn't make it up. Yeah, yeah. So a question about whether we move the rail forward, not the way that it's done. Some also have brought to put another holy table here to bring the person conducting communion. So we do have a spare one there, but actually that's too big to have. It'd be something. Someone actually met one of the CWA women raised saying, "You're so far away up there." But, you know, they're just ideas. I'm not suggesting do that. I'm just thinking.
You're in the heart of the church.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, and it's. Yeah, so I'm not saying that. I'm just. Yeah, that's the sanctuary.
Are we going to talk about this again?
Yeah, we are too. So I'm just raising the issues here and just sowing the seeds for thinking. So when we get to the general business, as that's sort of all been just working away in your subconscious or whatever, we'd be having a discussion about moving forward, how is the best way to go. The other thing to think about also is with that some churches now have gone back to using a common cup. I can see from here, or to have both common cup and individual cups, or just stick to the individual cup. So that again is, I'll just throw that in there, because that when we talk about this in the general business, we'll just that again raise that. Okay, greeting of the peace is another interesting difference of opinion here. So when you're asked in the survey about the frequency of doing the greeting of the peace, and the options were always, frequently, occasionally, never, 50% responded never. And then the others were split between always, frequently, and occasionally. If we were to do it, the way that we did it, people were saying either it's just, most people said it was just right. There were some who said it was too long. About 25% were uncomfortable with it. And then, of course, unknown, because some people have joined us in that time when we haven't been doing it. So that's something to think about. I will also say that the number one thing that stops people returning to a church when they come in for the first time is the greeting of the peace. So you're thinking, if we want people who come here to come back again, that's the number one thing that will stop, because Australians feel really uncomfortable with it, who are not used to it, not used to church stuff. I do understand there is a theological reason for doing it. You know, it's after we say we have confession, there is peace now between us and God, there is peace with one another, and we express that peace in the greeting of the peace before going into communion as one who are at peace together and united together. So look, all right, there are also different ways in which churches are doing it, if they do. Christine was telling me I've been to churches where they just stand where they are and they might just turn around and just do that peace be with you for a very short time. And they're going,
when that guy stood in for you.
Right, yeah.
We weren't expecting it either.
Yeah, with Gordon, yeah.
We just all looked at each other.
Yeah. Yeah, churches are doing all sorts of things. Some have gone back to the full-on handshake and whatever, but look, I think it's a good opportunity to just think about it. So think about 50% never wanted and 25% are uncomfortable. Newcomers don't come, they're back more if we do it, but then others here prefer to do it.
If the number one reason is, and this has been proven, is that newcomers don't come back because they feel awkward. That's the number one reason, and our mission is to grow the church. To me, it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
So if you have the absolute backup of information that says from the survey that people do not come because of that, and our mission is to grow the church, why would we even consider it?
Yeah. Research has been done with that, and I actually did pass it around. Not our. It was a previous parish council where I presented that research that showed it picked the most common reasons people don't come back, and that was the number one. So for the camera, for those who will be receiving, this is the question of if we're wanting to bring people into church, grow the people of church, it makes absolute sense not to have it if it's going to stop them, because it would be counterproductive. We'll come to discussing it later. Now, also with other things, there were a whole lot of all the elements of the service. You had opportunities to respond. And look, it shows that we are willing to give different things a go. So, we can have different numbers of Bible readings, because for the traditional Anglican liturgical service, it is normally 3 readings and a psalm. So we have the 2 readings. I will throw in the Psalms for special occasions, so for special seasons, Lent, Advent, for example. So you have that variety. People are, having interviews and testimonies, book reviews. People are okay to have some different things thrown into the service. And let me say, people like to know where a service is going and what's involved, and feel comfortable if there's some sort of pattern. And even for the free churches in their services, they all follow the same format week after week. So they actually do have an informal liturgy, because they will start with 10 songs. I'm exaggerating there. But they will go through that, where they'll start with a whole number of songs. They'll have some Bible reading, 4 songs, sermon, maybe another song and out, but they follow the same pattern week in, week out. So, so we are willing to just do a couple of different things, which is good. Music, okay, this is always the most divisive thing in any church. So look, for the 10 o'clock service, we see, there are some who prefer the traditional, some who prefer the contemporary, majority overall a mix. So I think, and that's what I sort of been doing with the 10 o'clock. Oh, sorry. Okay. So that's traditional, that's contemporary, and that is a mix.
Blue is traditional.
Yep. Yeah. The orange is contemporary and the grey is mixed. So that's what we've been doing, and so even with some of the traditional hymns, just had the slightly modern take on them with emu music and so on. Whereas the 8 o'clock very much want the traditional, and so a big difference between the 2 services is the music that's selected. Moving on to the number of songs in the service. The orange is 2 to 4, which is what that fits. We have 4 at the moment, and the next largest, the grey, is 4 to 6. So I think the 4 songs really, the instruments. There was instruments you prefer. Question about which instruments do you prefer? Which instruments would you not want? And here's the net result. And so basically, drums are not wanted. The drums are out. But mind you, we do have there are drums on the recordings that we sing to, but then that is different, I suppose. The drums can vibrate through people. Sometimes people feel that the drums live can be too loud or resonate through them, or hearing aids can resonate. But anyway, well, there probably are ways, instead of really go for it drum. There are other tempered ways of keeping it. Percussion is dead even, and then all the others, yes, I mean, there's going to be differences of opinion with some people say we don't want brass, but other people saying yes, we do want brass. It came out net positive, so that's it. And as for number of songs, there was another question about the number of songs, where you group a number of songs or you just have one song at a time. One song at a time came up rather than the groups of songs, because some churches will, have groups together.
Move on. I have trouble reading a lot of background.
Okay, so yeah, trouble reading them. So these are produced, a lot of them are being produced in England, and I get really annoyed that they have these moving backgrounds and then the words can disappear. I could go and redo them all, but that would be too time-consuming. So it's just hard to source, because there's not a lot of different sources out there. So I try to do the best I can, and I have tried to blow up a few and so on. Is it emu music or are the other ones? I think it's the other ones. Yeah, the emu ones tend to be they're good. Yeah, it's the other hymns that from the UK, and it's a whole group of churches in the UK that have done and put these together. So they're not going to change what they are. There is a way in which I could do it and remake them all. Using their music as the background and then having the slides, but that would be an awful lot of work. I have to change them from an MP4 to an MP3, then I have to put together a PowerPoint with all the words and then the timing of the music and that, and it's a lot of work. I've done it for some of them, but I can't do it for all. I've done so, yeah, so.
We did that a lot in the first year of COVID, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, sermon. Okay, the sermon length. I will go through these. So I'll start with the orange. That's 10 to 15 minutes. No one said less than 10, so that's all right. Just to give you an idea, my sermons on average are about 15. Now, sometimes they're a little less, sometimes a bit more. In Sydney, 20 to 25 was normal. 25 was what people mostly aimed at. Just to give you an idea of the difference. After being in school ministry, we only had, for high school, 8 minutes, and for primary school, you only had 3 minutes. I learnt to be briefer. Okay, so that's 10 to 15. This is 15 to 20. The grey, yes. The yellow is 20 to 25. The dark blue up here is longer than 25. Okay, who wants that? And look, what I'm actually really encouraged is that the majority, the light blue, is that the quality is what's important, not the length. And so, there will be some where the passages, it is appropriate for it just to be a shorter one. And also the last couple of weeks when we had baptisms, I just shortened it down for those. Christmas, Easter, we're trying to just hit the mark with something shorter when people are not used to it. I will, and then sometimes some passages are so complicated that you just need a bit of extra time to work through it, because if you don't, then you've got people saying, but I didn't understand, what about this? So you just sort of try it. So sometimes it can depend on the passage too in working through it. And look, you can't be dynamic every week. When you're doing it every week, you can't necessarily be dynamic every week. That's just the way it is. So look, at least knowing that people are finding that the sermons, going back to the National Church Life Survey, that you're finding the sermons apply to life, and that I give thanks to God for that in spite of my limitations. Rose is another question. So in this one, okay, we have the dark blue is always wearing robes, and the orange mostly. So that's the overall whelming response. The grey is never. The yellow is sometimes, and the other is an unknown. So with the robes, I wear them. For example, I don't wear them for the children's Christmas Eve service, the young family. So I don't wear it with them there. But just it's interesting getting people's different perspective to see, how are we shifting as a parish and people's attitudes to things. So at the moment still, generally the robes actually originated so that the person just looks as ordinary. There's nothing, the attention is not about flashy clothes. You go to some of Paul's letters, he's saying, dress modestly, don't draw attention to yourself with all these, so it's actually saying, no, it's actually not about me and how I dress and whatever, it's actually, and also identifying that who is actually looking after things so people know, that's the person who's looking after what's happening here, so I know who to go and talk to after the service or whatever. So that's why we don't have chasubles. That's where people start to draw the attention, when they do we don't. But I'm always interested in conversations about how people feel about any of these sort of things. So as for the order of service, the screen is the way people want to go. Forget the prayer book, and that even came up at the 8 o'clock, which surprised me. I thought they may want to go back to the prayer book. So the screen is the way, yeah. So, but that has implications for 8 o'clock, and I'll talk to them about it. So the overall satisfaction, here we go. The dark blue tiny little bit is neutral. There was no one who said they were very unhappy. No one who said they were not particularly satisfied. Only a very few were neutral. The orange is satisfied and the grey is very happy. So look, that's encouraging. Now we come to why did you choose to come? So location is the number one thing. And then the other two are connected with people to support spouse, family or friend, or friendly people. So obviously you must have known in advance there were friendly people. This is what made you choose first of all to come here for the first time. So it goes back to the research. It shows that people go to a church where they know someone, where they're invited, where they've got someone, a friend, family, whatever. They'll go with someone they know or go to somewhere where they'll know. Or it's also location, which tends to be for the older generations, because that's how people went to church. Churches were located where they were so that people could travel easily. Well, walk was originally within walking distance. They were all the churches were in walking distance, not necessarily so much now. Why did you choose to stay? So this is the qualitative stuff: a welcoming community, warm fellowship, friendly people and vicar, meaningful, enjoyable service, worship, and preaching the word. So they were the top responses. Others were just a number of other little one-off responses, but they were the ones that had multiple comments. And any other comments? Very happy to be a member of St Thomas. Very happy with our vicar. Keep doing what you're doing, especially the ministry and wardens. Love the enthusiasm of people who've returned since COVID. I could say amen to that. I think people have come back with a greater enthusiasm. I think COVID sort of highlighted something what we were missing. And the comment, a few people were down, continue using the disposable wine cup, so they're making sure that that comes in. Okay, so the questions that the things we'll be discussing in general business: whether or not to reinstate the greeting of the peace and how to perceive it if we do so, how to distribute communion, row, COVID position, the role of the common cup and individual cups. So that will be later. So now just want to say thank you to parishioners. Without the parishioners, there isn't a church. So you are the people who make the church. Vicars come and go as well, but you are the people who are here for the long term and make it happen. Mima and Sue, of course, great support. The wardens, Denny and Lynn, it's been a hard year this year. As you would have noticed in the Warden's report, and there will be a Warden's report coming up, there's been a lot of issues this year that they've had to deal with, and it's been incredibly time-consuming. So, thank you. And also to the rest of Parish Council. So Kathy is our Treasurer, Irina as our Secretary, OH&S officer Richard and Ellen and Janice. And of course, Paul. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Paul's support. He enables me to be able to do ministry because of all that he does behind the scenes. So, looking ahead, let us each commit to fulfill our commission to be growing as a people of God and making him known, and to pray for and invite at least one person to church service, Alpha, our small group or social event. Yeah, take advantage of Christmas to see if people might just come along for a one-off, for a change for Christmas if they're not used to coming or whatever. So I'll leave that there now with you. So I think we just move that my report be received.